one thing that I want to take a look at with you guys, and it's something that we've been talking about for months now, and every time we're talking about it and we're guessing what's going to happen when it finally happens, and now it has finally happened, and we can actually take a look at some of the things that are happening, and that is, of course, the overframes. For months now, ever since they announced that they were going to do them, we've talked about like, oh, the collector's market for Yu-Gi-Oh might come back and it's going to save the game because now they've got cards that are worth chasing and people are going to open more product, and then the other cards are going to be cheaper and it's going to make Yu-Gi-Oh attractive for collectors again, and so on and so forth. And every time, I love talking about this sort of stuff. You guys know this. We've rambled about this on the stream like a bunch of times. But now these cards are actually out in the OCG. And we can actually take a little bit of a first look at what the response is of the Japanese players, the Japanese market, and so on and so forth. And maybe get a grasp, get an idea of what it'll be like when the game comes to when the cards come to the TCG, you know, because of course the structure of product in the OCG in general is a little bit different, but still I think it is going to be a great insight into like, is the product something that people want because of these overframes? Are people chasing the serialized cards? All this sort of stuff that could really help the quality of product in the TCG as well. So there's two things I want to take a look at. The one thing is a Sunny video on the new overframes. Actually, let me position my camera differently again. Hold up. We have a Sunny video, first look at the overframe raise and OCG non-engine discussion, as well as Rhyme, who's a fellow content creator who does a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh as well, who's been constantly tweeting about the developments of the market of the overframes. And apparently this tweet was from like earlier, I think. I don't know exactly when it was tweeted. But he's been posting updates about like the overframes in the OCG, and currently the Dark Magician Girl overframe, which is technically not even Dark Magician Girl, it's a spell card, but this is the most expensive one. And it's currently not being sold, but it's being bought by stores for 3 million yen, which is yen to euro. 3 million yen is 16,000 euros or 19,000 USD. Keep in mind, this is not the value of the card. This is what the stores are buying it for. And if a store is buying it for this much, then it probably goes for more, because the stores are buying it to probably make a profit on it somewhere. Or at least they think they can turn a profit on it. So this is the serialized version. This is not every overframe. This is the one where there's 100 copies of it. Well, technically there's 200 copies of it, because there is 100 there's 100 Japanese ones, and then there's 100 for the rest of Asia. So there's 200 of these in Japanese language, and there's eventually going to be more once they come to the TCG, Copium. This sort of thing, I can tell you one thing that this means. I am never gonna own one of these, because I'm not spending that money on a serialized overframe card. I would never. I could never. But I don't care. I don't need to own these cards, because I think stuff like this existing is going to make Yu-Gi-Oh product so much more exciting. And this is what I've heard from some people in the OCG. I actually have a friend who's in Japan right now who's told me like it's sold out everywhere, right? It's sold out everywhere because people are excited for this, right? It's so exciting to open up product when you can pull stuff like this, right? And it's this is going to do a few things, right? It's going to make it so the other cards in the pack are going to be cheaper, because people open up this product like crazy. So there's going to be plenty of all the other cards in circulation. This is just how the market works. If a product is being opened into oblivion because people are chasing these cards, then there's going to be a lot more supply of the other cards. So this is how this benefits the regular Yu-Gi-Oh player who isn't even looking into these cards. This is why Pokemon and One Piece are so affordable to play. because they have chase cards, so people open the product and then all the low rarity cards are cheap as hell, right? This is what we want from these cards, okay? I want these cards to be rare. I want these cards to be sought after. I never want to own any of these cards. I'm never spending $20,000 on an Overframe Dark Magician Girl, all right? Never. But I don't care. I don't need to own these. They look sick, of course. I would love to own one, but I won't, all right? I won't. But that's fine, because all I want for it to do is fix Yu-Gi-Oh! In terms of like the price, you know, make it so that regular secret rares and lower rarity cards finally become more affordable, because they're not only the only cards that have any value, right? So as a first look, this is looking promising. All right, we're gonna look into the Sunny video to hear from an OCG player directly, but yeah, at first, the first things I saw from this are really cool.
So this video will be separated into 3 parts. So I have 3 boxes here from the new set. My first box is by far the best, so I'm going to talk about the set, Overframe rares, and thoughts about sustainability of Yu-Gi-Oh! The second one will be opening a Chinese exclusive product that I think the TCG could maybe take some inspiration from. And then I will finish off by doing a small meta rant with the last 2 boxes as B-roll. Just skip to the portion of the video you...
Here are the prices from a shop if you want to look through. Maybe let's watch this first, and then we can take a look at that. Because of course there is more Overframes than just the Dark Magician Girl. Yes.
So to start off with the first box, I'm usually not a pack opening channel, and
the card looks so good, man. I didn't even pay it. Man. Damn.
So to start off with the first box, I'm usually not a pack opening channel, and I'm not going to be, but I felt like this was extremely important to talk about since it has to do with the sustainability of the game. So to start off, the reason I bought 3 boxes in particular is because if you buy 3, then you get this +1 pack of 10 exclusive Overframe rares. I'm going to flash an image of what you can get from the pack on screen.
Yeah, bro, you high rolled. You high rolled. Definitely. Mirror Jade is the best one out of these. Mirror Jade is the best looking one. Yeah. No, you high rolled. The Purge is also really nice. Purge is sick too. These are the ones in our rarity collection. Yeah, these are the 10 we are getting in rarity collection, right?
I think this is a great idea, and the TCG should try to do this more. I know OTS stores used to do this for the Lost Art collection, but Lost Arts are now worthless, so it's probably time to change it up. Just anything to reward people for buying sealed product at their OTS.
So here's my first question. How hard is it to pull like Overframes in these regular products?
Personally, of the 10, I wanted Quasar for my retro deck, or Kurikara, just because I think the art is really good, but as you can see, I pulled Mirror Jade. I'm obviously not disappointed at all by this. This is easily one of the best cards in the entire pack. And Mirror Jade obviously also has some of the best art the game has ever seen.
No.
The main reason I bought this set is that it's extremely good. Besides the collector cards, such as the Overframe rares and the Chibi cards, there's a ton of really good reprints. They put almost the entire...
You get 1 per box, and 1 box is 12 packs. Okay.
Smith package in here, except for a Requiem.
So you get 1 per box, which is either Ultra or Prismatic Secret Rare. All right.
The Charmies all got reprinted. IPSP are also in here. And then there's a ton of new cards that are just nice, such as WPE.
There's so many implications to this step. This is why this is such a big deal. Even if you don't care about owning these cards yourself. If Yu-Gi-Oh products are good to open because of reprints like this, because of fancy looking cards, then they can make Yu-Gi-Oh so affordable. They really can. Because you can reprint, like, no one cares if the staples or the playable cards are all low rarity. People are gonna open your product for these cards, and everyone can play the game for so much cheaper. It is so important that they're doing this.
The new terraforming, and
they
of course
all
of the Overframe rares, most of which have pretty solid effects. I'm not super into the Overframes or the Chibi cards, to be honest. The Chibis are very popular here, but they're not really for me. I tend to prefer the original art. I personally only bought this for Charmies. We're actually joking about it over here that now since we've only ever had rare Charmies, now we can LARP as TCG players with our Starlight Fuwas.
Oh, this is the first time they get high rare Fuwa, because Fuwa was a rare only. Fun fact, this is the first high rare Fuwa printing, so Fuwa is 100 euros. But that's fine, because it's a fancy version. You don't need it. That's okay. The base version was rare, so it's affordable. That's all right.
The collector stuff is cool, but I'm more of a retro collector, so I tend to only collect old school ultimate rares and stuff like that. But they really did do a great job with the set. In terms of ratios, every box seems to get 2 collector rares, 2 ultimate rares, and most importantly, you get 1 Starlight and 1 Overframe rare per box.
This is living proof of the fact that all the other rarities in Yu-Gi-Oh! Barely even matter anymore. I couldn't tell you which of these rarities is even which. Of course, because they're OCG, so we don't have the exact same ones, but realistically,
however,
like, I can tell this is an Overframe, all right? This looks sick. The other ones, whatever, man. Collectors, ulti, prismatic, who cares at this point? Bro, it means nothing anymore in the TCG as well. Like, sometimes some Starlights are incredibly hard to get, and then they're 500 bucks, and then some Starlights are in a mega tin, so they go for 50 cents. Like, it has no meaning.
Overframe rare you get can also be Starlight, in which case your box would have 2 Starlights. I've been told that the ratio on those is about 1 in 6 boxes, but I didn't talk to the store owner today, so I'm not 100% sure about that. Take that with a grain of salt. There's also another rarity on top of this. I don't know what it's called in English, but it's basically a serialized card with a number. I'm not quite sure how hard it is to... I think
it's called Grandmaster Rare.
To pull them. Considering there's only 100, probably pretty insane hard. At least no one in our store pulled one, and if you go to Yugioh, someone is selling the...
He just pulled the regular version of the Astrograph Overframe.
Your Dark Magic curtain for about 10,000 yuan, which is like a bit less than $1,500. So about sustainability, I have a few friends in the TCG who are more involved with the business side, and when you hear their numbers on sealed product, it's kind of hard to think anything except that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is doomed. It's looking pretty bad. The solution for this is to make Yu-Gi-Oh! More collectible, but I'm not 100% sure that this will do that in the TCG. It's just that I feel like the biggest problem detracting from collectors is that they kept reprinting everything collectible.
They have to, literally, they have to promise that they're not reprinting these. This is important. These Overframes need to be protected from reprint. They have to do this.
And that breaks collectors' trust. Like, reprinting Starlights really ruined the collecting scene for Yu-Gi-Oh! And just making nice cards doesn't necessarily bring those collectors back. Trust is something that needs to be built up over time.
Oh, turn 0 FTK?
Now, don't get me wrong, it is try or die.
And you can see this in real time. He's pulling plenty of these cards that are Overframes, right? This is the Overframe Gagaga. He just pulled the Overframe Synchro Trap. He's pulling plenty of the regular versions. The regular versions can be common, super rares, whatever. You can pull 20 per box. It doesn't matter, as long as the fancy version is the chase card. This is how it should be. This is how it needs to be in the TCG. The problem is, or the thing is, what he's talking about right now, for these to be chase cards, for collectors to be interested in this, they need some sort of guarantee that these cards will not be reprinted in the same artwork, same rarity, Overframe in the freaking megatins or some shit like that, right? No one wants to chase a Dark Magician Girl Overframe if they're reprinting it a year later, right? And I genuinely, with how the Yu-Gi-Oh! Market has been treated in recent years with the Starlights and the Quarter Centuries and whatever, if they reprint these, I think the collector's market is done with Yu-Gi-Oh! I think no one is ever picking up a collectible Yu-Gi-Oh! Card again. Like it's just, at this point, people are going to collect old school Yu-Gi-Oh! And nothing else.
To make Yu-Gi-Oh! Collectible right now, so I 100% support Overframe rares, and I think they look way better than anything I could have imagined. Just that I feel like
I expect that only Grandmasters won't be reprinted, but the regular Overframes will. I think that would be a mistake. I think that would be a mistake.
Need to do this over a long period of time in order to see the effect.
I think this is the perfect thing for a collectible card, even the regular Overframes, even the Starlight Overframes. I think this is the perfect thing to never reprint because it is not necessary to play the game. You do not need it. There is no argument to reprint them. You can just reprint the base version of the card for people to have access to them, but the Overframes should be exclusive.
specs of it. So as you can see, this is a second Starlight in my box, which means that the first one I revealed has to be an Overframe rare. I'm going to play the audio for our reactions for you to enjoy.
Sonny got lucky, dude. And it's Starlight too. Okay, so this is not the serialized one. This is not the 20,000 euro one that we just looked at earlier. That there's a difference. This is not serialized. It doesn't have it doesn't have the Grandmaster border. It doesn't have the serialized number. But this is actually, we can check what it's worth. We can check what it's worth. Hold up. Someone sent me, I don't know if this is a good place to go by when it comes to single prices, but someone sent me this from a store in Japan. 80,000 yen, $500, and it should be like I don't know, 450 euros or something like that, which is still a lot, you know, it's still a lot. So like the chance to pull cards like this, right, is incredibly important for card games. And I know people have this sort of like idea of like, you know, fuck the collectors, who cares? Fuck the stores, who cares about the economy of the game? Who cares about vendors? You know, fuck them all. The game should just be cheap for no reason. The game should just, every card should be cheap. No one should be making money with this game. We just want to play the game for free. This is not how it works. There needs to be a reason for people to open the product. And the best way to do this is to make rare cards that are not necessary for tournament play, okay? This card is fancy looking. People want it. People are going to open boxes for it, but it's not necessary to play the game. You can just play the regular version of the card, okay? That's how it should be. This is why making these cards is actually good for players. These cards being so rare and so expensive that you and I will probably never have it is good for the game. It's good for the players because you can just play the cheaper version. This card being expensive makes the rest of the set affordable. That's what it's here for. That's what we need to understand, okay? And this is why they can't reprint it. Right? Do you think this card, do you think for future sets, cards like this will go for 500 bucks if they start reprinting these in this artwork? They will not. They will not.
少点编号可惜，
这个编号是10万吧？那个好编是10万。
哎呀。
Yeah, so this is my best OCG pull in 3 years. It's by far the best overframe in the set, being worth about 4 times more than the second most expensive one. I got about 3 boxes of value from this one card alone.
Flash draw!
Not only is it highly collectible, but it's also just a great card. You know, emergency teleport for dark spellcasters. The effects are negated, so it's not exactly emergency teleport, but if you just summon Dark Magician, that doesn't matter. And then it searches Gaze of Timaeus to make Dragoon. I'm personally not really a DM collector. I'm more of a GX and 5Ds fan.
That's the Stardust Dragon Overframe.
I'll probably keep this just because it's my first time actually pulling something good after all these years. So now I want to go over a Chinese exclusive product made for pet deckers. Okay. We have the complete File of White and the Malice Deluxe set. These are some collector OCG exclusive items. I'm actually not going to...
Okay, so we're moving on to a different topic. I'll keep watching because this sounds interesting, except for the Malice one. But I feel like we've talked about this enough. I feel like I've made my points. I feel like we talked about it. I think it's good that this exists. The current demand on the OCG market shows that it's working. All right, it shows that it's working. Because, for example, let me try and find the same version of this card as a regular card. Where is it? Let me see. The regular version of this card is going for 2,480, which is 15 bucks. The cheapest version of this card, which I think this one is the cheapest version. I don't know if there's another printing of it in another rarity. Let me just double check. There's collector's rares, there's ultra rares. Maybe there is another one. the UR should be cheaper. Wait, there's another version? You skipped it. Oh, my bad. UR card list. Oh, here it is. 1980. 1980. 12 bucks. 12 bucks. $12. 12.77, which is like 10 euros. This is how it should be. All right? This is how it should be. If you care about the game being affordable, play the ultra rare version. 10 bucks. And if you want to be fancy with it, you can spend all the way up to 20k. I don't care. Right? This is living proof that this is a working concept. Even for Yu-Gi-Oh, it can work. And this is how they should do it even for main sets. And I think it's very easy to see that this is working and that this is good for both the collectors and the player base. 20k for paper is insane. I'm good with the $10 one. Exactly, right? But in order for the $10 one to exist, the other one also needs to exist. That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make, right? It works because they both exist. If the fancy one doesn't exist, then the other one is going to be more expensive because less people are opening the set. Because people are not opening the set to chase for this one. People are opening the set to chase for the Starlight Overframe or for the serialized even, right? That's what's making people open the set. Anyways, let's move on. I feel like it's pretty easy to see.
Open the complete file of white today. I'm saving this for a really bad day, but I will be opening the Malice Deluxe set because this is a Chinese
Malice Deluxe set,
so Japan doesn't have it. This is not just a OCG exclusive product.
So the Overframe cards are limited? No. There is Overframe Ultra Rare, which there's no limit to them. Then there is Starlight Rare Overframe, which are significantly harder to pull, but they are not limited as well. There are serialized Grandmaster Rares that are 1 out of 100. Those are super hyper hard to find. And those are limited to 100 copies. Overframes themselves are not limited to 100. The Grandmasters are limited to 100. So even within the full arts, there is levels.
Specifically for us. I feel like pet deckers are something that need to be embraced more. The OCG obviously has way more of these, but I feel like it's partially because they have a lot more support from products. And it's more ingrained in our cultures. Like when you play TCG, most people use color sleeve, but in OCG, it's like 99:1 ratio on art sleeve to color sleeve. So we have not only a lot more art sleeves, we have art deck box, we have figurines, playmats, merchandise, and I think that the TCG
This product seems like my worst nightmare.
could get some inspiration from this. It's not like the TCG has
It's a sick deck box though, I'm not gonna lie. It's
no
a good
pet
deck
deckers.
box.
2 examples you've probably heard of already that I kind of want to shout out
This feels like an actual deck box too. This is not paper, right?
are Kai and Sissy. I'll have their Twitters on screen. Kai obviously cosplays a lot, and I'm pretty confident in saying that Sissy has the most insane Blackwing collection in the world.
This is also one of my worst enemies right there. This is the opposite of my room pretty much.
So there are people who love a specific deck in the TCG, they just don't have as much support. So it comes with a few things. A 55 card deck that is almost ready to play right out of the box. They give you staples, the complete extra deck, and almost full engine. The only thing that should be missing is...
I mean, I know this because of course I'm sponsored by Young Cards, who's doing OCG product. Like this stuff is insanely successful. Like people love this sort of stuff. Everyone loves a good art sleeve when you're a Yu-Gi-Oh player, you know? Like, yeah, sure, it's a little more expensive than just getting like the plain colored sleeves or whatever, but friggin' like this stuff is awesome. I thought you knew this because you're Malice's biggest fan. That also too.
Is one of each main deck Malice name. It also gives you a bonus pack of 2 Starlights and 5 good cards. There's a pool of 10 Starlights, and it's every single Malice card that doesn't already have a QCR. That means that you can get the full Malice deck in QCR and Starlight now. The big box you see on the outside is like a magnetic box that you can use either for
The sleeves are good. They are good.
or mats or more deck boxes. And the cover of that box is not only removable, but it has Malice art on the interior. They also give you 100 Malice and Underground sleeves. I feel like they did a great job with these because of the red interior. I just like it when it's not always black. The item I'm holding now is made of rubber. It's like a rubber material, and it basically is called 8 special dual markings on the box. I'm actually not sure what these are. On one of them it said can't activate effects, so I'm guessing it's just to help remind people of things. But I've never actually seen anyone use any of these. This is a card holder if you have one card that you think looks really good and you want to display on a shelf. So it also has the Malice in the Mirror borders, which is really nice if you're into displaying cards like that. I usually prefer to use binders, so that's not really for me. And this thing is just a stand to put your card holder on. Finally, there is a deck box. Oh, sorry, there's 2 more items. So the first one is this deck box, which is for Malice in the Mirror. It's kind of one of those like plastic deck boxes, but they improved those a lot. Those used to be unusable, where if you use them, then your cards would get all damaged, but now they use like a hard plastic, so it's actually like, you can put it in your backpack and it will be safe. And then here we have a magnetic box that's just used for dice, and it's Malice themed. Dice encounters and the like. Now I'm going to finish off with the actual cards. So if we start with the special pack, this will have 5 normal
Yeah, I mean, this is it's a pretty cold take that TCG could be doing more like products like this and lean more into like the merchandise kind of direction, or accessories rather. Like,
all of
you
these
know,
cards should be
Yu-Gi-Oh players love accessories. There's a reason why like even OCG product is doing very well here. And like the TCG just doesn't have the greatest selection on these. I don't know if there's a reason for it, but yeah.
And have top to Malice
Griffin!
at some point in history. So we have Yugioh and Crystal Heart,
and
Book of Eclipse, Rivalry of Warlords, and
could be banned.
Bonus Impulse.
Impulse!
For the Starlights, we have White Binder.
Oh no.
I'm really happy about this one because I feel like Starlight fits her color scheme really well. I'm actually not going to be using any of the main deck monsters, only if I pull a trap card. And then the trap card I got was GWC. So I feel like the reason why people don't want the trap cards is because obviously they're worth the least, but I'm actually pretty happy with trap
so
cards
shiny.
because
Oh
I'm using
god.
them simply for translation reasons. The translations on the trap cards are fine, but I feel like the translations on the actual monsters is like massive aura loss because the translation is pretty mid, to be honest. It's just like more of a sound translation, whereas something like Memento, for example, like Memeing Tool, it has not only the sound, it has the meaning, and it has the aura preserved in the translation, which is why that's like an S tier translation, and this is like a B tier translation. But it's also just really hard to beat the Japanese copies because those have the English with the furigana on top, and then that just like looks super cool, especially when they have the like Virus A. So all of these cards also have the Malice stamp. I don't do a good job showing it off in the video, but the stamp on the bottom is basically just like the 4 playing card, so like spades, hearts, clubs, and diamonds.
That is a cool stamp, to be fair.
So I'm trying to show it off here, but it's not really getting in that good of a light. So you get an Ultra for all of the main deck monsters with the stamp. You also get Underground and Mirror, as well as the trap cards. So you get 1 of each engine in the stamped copies, and you get the 3 extra deck monsters in stamped copies. And then here you will also get the normal parallel rare copies for each. Sorry, I made a mistake earlier. I actually forgot to count the ultra rares as part of the deck. So they actually do give you 3 copies of each of the main deck monsters. The deck is just basically
a full
complete.
deck,
You can
yeah.
just remove like I Meet You for
called by
something else that could be like non-engine that would be useful.
Link Decoder.
But aside from that, like even the extra deck is pretty solid. They have they're just missing like maybe like an SP. Like you don't need to play terahertz and allied code probably. But aside from that, like this is like very playable right out of the box. That's probably why it costs $100. This would be a dream product for Malice pet deckers. I'm actually not the greatest Malice fan. I'm not the greatest Malice hater either. I brought this deck to tournament quite a few times.
I was about to say based, but then I didn't say based because he said he wasn't the biggest Malice hater. But to be fair, how is he going to be the biggest Malice hater while I exist?
It's just that I would say it probably falls somewhere in my 30th to 40th favorite decks of all time to play. I bought this literally just for the video. And a lot of it I can't even use. Like I'm not going to use the cards because of translation, and for the accessories, I'm more of a practical use kind of guy. I'll probably use the sleeves in the deck box and maybe the dice box, but the rest is not really designed for me.
I will say, I have a confession to make. On Friday night when I was building my deck for the regional, there was about 10 minutes where I was seriously considering playing Malice just as like a fun gag for 100k subscribers on YouTube, because some people were saying like, hey, you should play Malice to celebrate 100k subscribers. And I was kind of close to doing that for the meme.
That away to someone. I do feel like the TCG should be taking
ultimately I
from
couldn't bring
like
myself to do it.
Don't get me wrong, the TCG is getting better. The branded structure deck I heard was actually a very good product, and y'all are getting that Mitsurugi deck soon, I'm pretty sure. I also heard that the branded structure deck had Starlights, which is obviously very good. That's kind of similar to this, except they don't give as many accessories. The card holder and the dual markings are kind of whatever, but it'd be nice if they started making more deck boxes, mats, and more sleeves as well. Now, what most people have probably been waiting for, I'm going to talk about the actual game. Another reason I was really excited for this set is because it has a lot of...
So, if I understood correctly, we're opening the other 2 boxes now and also rambling about the current OCG metagame while we do it, which I'm down for. I got a little bit of extra time, so we can listen in. But I mean, this was a pretty cool product, of course, and yeah, once again, it is a cold take, but it doesn't make it less true that they should do more accessory-based product in the TCG as well, for sure.
Of new cards, and I need a meta shift now. I'm not having the most fun with the game right now.
Uh-oh.
I've been making videos about the OCG for about 2 years, and during that entire time, I've complained about the game one time during Snake Eyes Beatrice FTK format before Fua even came out. I rarely complain about the game, and it's not because I'm some Konami NPC that just plugs my ears and closes my eyes when the game is bad. It's because I genuinely thought the game was pretty good for most of that entire time, and it's still good right now. The actual meta right now is decently diverse, and there are a ton of fun decks. The player base is pretty happy. I'm not here to tell you about any toxic deck ruining the game because there is none. Maybe Fairy Tail because that deck makes too many negates, but regardless, I just want to talk about a semi-new gameplay pattern that I find very annoying when it comes up, which is that because they added so much strong non-engine to the game, it feels extremely bad to get Charmed now. Obviously, you weren't dancing when you got Charmed before, but it's not like it is now. My logic this time probably isn't as well thought out, but I would need to make an exclusive meta discussion video to go super in-depth, so I'll talk about the situation more broadly this time. For context, when you ask people what the best decks are in the OCG, people usually say Mitsurugi, Killer Tune, and then some combination of like Vanquish Soul, Elven Notes, and other miscellaneous decks. These are the most consistent answers, so even though a lot more is playable, such as Striker, Radiant Typhoon, Fairy Tail, White Forest, Malice, I'm only going to be talking about these today. Most people consider Mitsurugi to be the best deck. I saw the last Word of the King, I know it's not first in the pie chart. When I ask people, a ton of them think Mitsurugi is the best. So let's talk about why. Mitsurugi did not come out unscathed from the last ban list. They got rid of the Fiendsmith build, and pre-prep going to 1 is obviously a massive consistency hit because they lost 2 Habas. So Mitsu these days is basically a 2-card deck. Now I'm actually a very big fan of Pure Mitsu. I played it both in TCG on DB Ladder and in Master Duel. I really like this deck, but the consistency is not excellent, and it will get stopped by hand traps a lot. My last 2 hands...
I can confirm. I got stopped by a single Ash Blossom a couple of times yesterday. Not like every game, but... And it's not just because Habakiri is at 1, because I replaced the Habakiris with Manjus, and even then, there was still games where I couldn't play through an Ash Blossom.
Playing this deck got stopped by 1 Ash in one game and 1 Droll in the other. So, how is this considered the best deck in most players' opinion? Is it the matchup spread? That's part of it, but in my opinion, it's the non-engine, the hand traps. So let's take a look at a Mitsu list.
I've been thinking about this a little bit recently as well, where like I think a lot of games... I've been experiencing a lot of games where the non-engine was the deciding factor and not the engine, which is fundamentally not a bad thing, because I've been noticing that a lot of times when I'm going second against a lot of these decks nowadays, whether it's Draco Tail or Mitsu or even pure Yami, like a lot of the decks present you with like beatable end boards a lot of the time, and then if they just overload you on non-engine next to that, that's what you lose to a lot. At least that it feels like that's what you lose to often, but it's hard to say. I would say like maybe the best solution is to just make more non-engine that is at least stronger going second than going first in general.
Think about what a Mitsu list plays these days.
Cards like Droll, you know, cards like Droll, Ash also falls in this category, Impulse also falls into this category. Like those cards, especially Ash and Impulse, are completely fine when the player going second has them, I think. But when the player going first has them behind their board, it starts becoming like not all the time. Like sometimes you can play through an Ash plus a board if your hand is really good, but often is like, you know, especially if you talk about decks like with Impulse in particular. Of course, Malice is one of the decks that was notorious for this. Like it would combo and then draw a bunch of cards, and then like maybe the board was beatable, but they had 2 or 3 non-engine next to it, and those were like Ash Impulse or something. I was like, okay, well, can't beat that.
As an example, Maxi, Fua, Harmonia, Ash, Impulse, Spark, Imperm. And then the side has Perulia, Droll, and Shifter.
Yeah.
There are no more of these weak hand traps. This is all the best hand traps in the game in Imperm, which is there because the broken hand traps stop you from using the non-trap ones. And Imperm historically has also been one of the best hand traps. The fact that Imperm is the 10th best hand trap in this deck is kind of crazy on its own. That's an insane statement. This is my least favorite part about Blazing Dominion. It's good that they're putting good cards back in core sets, and all of the archetype cards they released, I'm a big fan of. But these generic non-engine cards are not great design in my opinion.
Honestly, I've been thinking about this too. Maybe the solution is to just give out less generic non-engine and just make decks naturally better at going second. Just give decks more going second plays, or give decks their own hand traps. That way you don't make like generic hand traps that are going to stay in the game for like 10 years and every deck is going to play them. You know, and like that's also fine. Like, because the reason people play non-engine is so they have a chance going second, right? They want to play non-engine to compete with the opponent when they go second. But if you just make every deck stronger going second, then you don't need that, right? If every deck is stronger going second than before, then there's no need to play 20 hand traps if your deck is already doing this kind of thing. Sounds like the issue isn't those hand traps, but rather that making stronger 1-for-1 trade hand traps while also letting every deck play 9 max C light leads to more non-games. Yes, I think it's a little bit of both, right? It's well, yeah. The question is, how do you go on from here? Because I guess what the issue is doesn't matter, or what the reason is doesn't really matter. It's just that where do you go from here, right?
No, I was more optimistic about them in my last video. I changed my mind. The thing that Josh said reacting to my video was that removal is far more interactive than negates. I think that is theoretically true, and it's especially true when you go second into a board. For example, would you rather play against a 6 Omni Negate board or a Memento board with a million pops? Both are probably unpassable, and it depends on decks, but removal seems like it's easier to pass because you can activate effects if you have triggers. If you have 6 negates, unless you have multiple...
Well, this is something that I talked about in my recent YouTube video about negation. It's like every form of interaction can be toxic if there's just too much of it. Like, of course, if your opponent has 20 banishes, that's also going to be unbeatable. But in general, like, removal is more interactive than negation.
Card effects per card or floating, then they just negate all of your cards and you die. I do not think this translates very well to hand traps. The reason is because negation hand traps are neg, which means that when you play into Charmies, the pressure differential is insane because if you're getting hand trapped on monsters, you keep the body. Think about it like this. I spoke about Harmonia, last video, and I think it's not horrible design, but paired with a Charmy, it's basically a game. If you get Fluid, you're probably not trying to make the largest board. You have to pivot into your compromise. But the Harmonia literally kills both your extension and your endboard pieces, and makes a 2500 body. So not only are they at like 6 or more cards, they have a 2500 body. You have no choice but to continue to make things, because you will definitely die if you pass with nothing.
That is a good point, yes. That is a situation where the Charmy balancing is off if they pair them with too many hand traps that also create a board presence on your turn already. Like in a world where decks are naturally stronger at going second because they've got cards like Phimena or Izuna or Fedralis Harmonia or whatever, which is not an archetypal card, but if that is a world that we live in where decks can already play on turn 0, in that world, Charmies should not exist. I will say that. Even as a fan of Charmies in current Yu-Gi-Oh, as a defender of Charmies right now, in a world where more turn 0 is happening and where decks are naturally good at going second, I would also want Charmies to not exist.
Except the thing you make has to be bigger than 2500, or they might kill it in full combo, or you need a secondary interaction to kill a Harmonia, which means that the Harmonia killed 2 bodies and got a removal interaction, while the Charmies stopped the player from making a stable board. That is insane pressure. Like, I know negation hand traps are annoying with Charmies too, but they lose a card.
That's why I had an issue with Draco Tail. Turn 0 with Charmies is too strong. That's a fair point.
If you get negated on your starter, it's like 5 cards.
Just because I'm defending the Charmies does not mean I think they are okay in every thingy. I just acknowledge that Charmies are a band-aid fix that are not perfect. But I still think for now, I think we're better off with the Charmies than without. That's the only thing. Because like, yeah, I would want the Charmies to be not necessary, right? I would want decks to be fair to the point or capable at going second to the point where we don't need a solution like the Charmies. But right now, I don't think that's the point where Yu-Gi-Oh is at, right? Like, we have decks that are just too strong at going first, and not every deck in the game has the ability to go second like a Phimena or an Azuna gives them, right? But we have decks like K9 Vanquish Soul, K9 Crystron, Yami, Radiant, Tri Brigade, and like try stopping those decks going second without Charmies. And it's like borderline impossible. Mitsurugi Yami last format, like those decks are just not realistically beatable going second without the Charmies. But yes, ultimately the Charmies are a band-aid fix for this problem.
Cards even if you triggered a Charmy. So then you use that information to now choose how much you want to let them draw for how big of a board. If they continue to interrupt you, they lose more cards. But with the Harmonia, there is no choice. You must make them draw a million cards. But ultimately, Harmonia is like fine. It's just very strong. It has to respond to something, so maybe you can chain block it if you're trying to play around it. It also doesn't feel that bad to get hit by it unless you're getting Charmied as well. That's why I actually think that Dominus Spark is actually the worst design between the two. So Dominus Spark. I'm a big fan of the Dominus cards, except for this one. I even liked Impulse. This is almost not even a hand trap. If you haven't read it, it has an Izuna activation condition where it becomes a hand trap, and then it targets a monster to banish. There's two drawbacks. The first is that the opponent can summon a monster from hand if you want, if you don't have a trap engrave. The second is that you're locked into light or dark. There's a massive problem with this card in my opinion. It's the first three words, during the turn. It has no phase restriction. The way people are using this is often not even as a hand trap. What people are doing is they are charming you, you make some compromise. Let's use Vanquish Soul as an example because I played that recently. If you start with K9s and get Fluid, obviously I can't go into Star Yugioh, so I do Ripper, Izuna, Force Release. I don't want to play into Harmonia or else I lose my Ripper negate and then I still have to deal with the Harmonia next turn. So I'm not making a second Xyz. I go end phase. They then, during my end phase, do Spark, banish my Ripper, and now my end board is gone. I can summon, but it's end phase. How is summoning from hand during the end phase going to help me?
Yeah,
Spark?
that card should have had a during the main phase clause. They put that on so many things. It's beyond me why that card is does not have that.
If it were a hand trap that is targeting banish, that would be fine. But it's not always going to be doing that. I think that because Dominus Spiral was low-key mid, people assume that this one would be the same, but the effect is way better. The drawback is basically not even a drawback, and better decks can use it. It's not that popular, the restriction is decently big, but in decks where it is playable, such as Mitsurugi, Malice, White Forest, it is so annoying. Compare with removal cards of the past. Izuna,
yeah, dude, the fact that Malice now gets to play that card too is kind of crazy.
Mitsu, 5 mana are main phase. Yes, you probably still lose if you got Charmied and then they resolve these.
And
but
Mitsu plays all of these. Yeah, that is also true.
Holisu and 5 mana are multiple card combos and they are all during the main phase. You can choose if you want to continue to do something. Spiral gives you no choice. And both it and Harmonia are on one card. They have 5+ unknowns in their hand after you get hit by these cards. It is like unbelievably different pressure. So you might be wondering, Sonny, how is this different from Breakers? I don't think it is that different from Breakers, but I don't think that that is the peak of Yu-Gi-Oh gameplay. When I play Yummy and then I get hit by Maxi or Raigeki combo, I don't think that that is the best game of Yu-Gi-Oh I played in my life. I think that Charmy into Breaker lose game is one of the worst moments in modern Yu-Gi-Oh. And I think
that is true. Yes, it is not peak Yu-Gi-Oh. I guess the problem the question I'm asking is like, what is the alternative if they're not willing to significantly tone down the power level of the game? If that's even possible, right? Like if we even live in a world where they could possibly, because I think there's a lot of decks waiting, even if they solve, let's say they solve K9 and they solve, like, I don't know, White Forest or whatever. Like White Forest isn't even meta, right? White Forest isn't even meta. If they get rid of K9 and Yummy, Fiendsmith, Tri Brigade, whatever, right? If they get rid of those, what's the alternative? Like people are going to start playing White Forest and that's going to FTK people and whatnot. Do we really need the Charmies if they make better 1-for-1 trade hand traps? 1-for-1 trade hand traps I don't think are the solution against these combo decks, because that is literally just playing Go Fish. That gameplay is also pretty awful. Unless it's stuff like Fedralis Harmonia. Like in a world where like those hand traps need to actually do something, but like if you try to go second against Tri Brigade, Fiendsmith, or Tri Brigade, Radiant, Yummy with 1-for-1 hand traps, that game experience is beyond awful. You're gonna have a terrible time into that deck. Like you just look at your hand and you need 3 of them things, and even if you have 3 of them things, there's a chance they play through it. They go like special Eldam, search Swen, or normal Cupsy, and like you throw up. Like the game is unplayable for you. So there needs to be a significant amount of balancing before they could do it. But I do agree, in a world where they properly balance going first and they make decks naturally stronger going second, I would prefer the Charmies to go as well. That is not a world that we live in right now, which is why currently I stand by the fact that the more Charmies are necessary as long as those decks exist.
It's partially why people hate Tenpai. If you lose to 2 cards, I feel like it doesn't feel that good for most people. And it's distinct because breakers are largely weak in recent metas, so they're usually hyper-specific and only played in one post-board game. These 2 removal hand traps are in all 3 games, and you have to deal with them when you go second as well. not all of your effects will be triggers. You probably have some sort of ignition effect somewhere in your deck, and then Spark will just be better than a negate. So here's the thing. I know it sounds like I'm just mad because bad, which might be true. This would actually be the best case scenario because then I would learn. The problem is that I told my friends this theory, and they said, most of them said they don't think it's true. So I said, okay, let's test it. I want to...
I think it's reasonable. I think what he's saying is reasonable. I think the general trend of removal instead of negation is good, and the general trend of playing on turn 0 is also good. Both of those things are good, but they are problematic in combination with Charmies, which is a relevant thing because Charmies are in everyone's deck. So when they make these cards, of course, they're going to be played together. So I think this is that's a reasonable way to feel about the situation.
See how you beat Charmy Harmony.
So the thing is like, okay, sometimes when you go first, it feels incredibly bad to be hit with Charmy plus Harmonia. The problem is at the moment, the alternative is it feels terrible to go second all the time. When those cards don't exist and when combo stuff like White Forest, Yami Tri-Brigade, Radiant, like if those decks exist and you go second against them, that is way worse in a world where Charmies don't exist. Like that feeling is terrible. So it's like a pick your poison kind of thing. Like, do you want the player going second to have a chance against those decks? Then I guess we need something like those cards, right? We need the breakers, we need the Charmies. If you don't want those decks to make for a terrible game experience. And I feel like the problem in this entire equation is the decks. I think the decks are causing this, right? The power level of decks going first, the resilience to other non-engine is what's making Charmies the only viable solution, or crazy all-in breakers like Evenly or Dark Ruler or Droplet or Super Poly. You know, those are your only options to sometimes beat those decks when they go first, because otherwise what they do is straight up unbeatable, right? And that's what creates this weird dynamic of it's going to feel bad for one of the players, right? It's a zero-sum game at this point, right? You either have the crazy like silver bullet answer or you don't, and it's going to feel bad for one of the two players.
Yeah, Spark. None of them could do it either. It's great if I'm crying about nothing, because that just means you can all tell me the solution. I'm just saying I don't like it at all, and I sincerely hope they don't keep making more of these cards. So there's a debate to be had. There's 4 scenarios here. Either the Charmies are the problem, the new removal hand traps are the problem, both are problems, or the best case scenario, which is that neither are problems. The thing is, I feel like Charmies aren't the...
They are problems? Or rather, I think in this specific scenario, I do think the Charmies are the problems, but they exist because the underlying problem is turn 1 being too strong. That is the premise, right? Going first in Yu-Gi-Oh at the moment is too strong. So they've made, in order to counteract this, they've made some incredibly powerful tools for going second to kind of even it out, because they've chosen to do this instead of lowering the power level for going first, which is why they've created strong solutions for going second that then in return make it feel bad for the player going first, right? That sums it up pretty well.
Problem, because I like them up until Blazing Dominion came out, and Yu-Gi-Oh is undoubtedly a very going first favor game, so making your opponent make a half board against 6 engine cards, I think that usually produces some pretty good gameplay. Like, I usually think that those games end up being pretty good, but I just don't think that they're aging very well together. Finally, I just want to end off by talking about the meta decks briefly. I think that power historically is...
I like how we pulled the Cyber's Ritual overframe and we just...
slightly more important than consistency. This has usually been true across every Yu-Gi-Oh format. The exception is when the most powerful deck is also the most consistent deck. That rarely happens though. China in particular is more of a combo OCG region. So typically the decks here that are considered the best are ones that are higher ceiling. That's why Vanquish Soul was rated super high here. And I think that usually it ends up being pretty accurate, except in this case. Vanquish Soul is the highest ceiling. I think it's trash. It's not inconsistent, but the Charmy compromises are garbage now, and it's comparatively quite weak to removal hand traps. Mitsurugi is 2 brick for me. I don't know why I see when I play against people that it performs fine, but whenever I pick up that deck, some catastrophe is happening to me and I can't play the game. So that leaves Killer Tune, which I think is actually OP. It's so weird because the board itself is not that insane. It's a very good board, but it's more important that it's just really hard to stop and it's impossible for them to misplay. The new level 1 monster was such a perfect support card.
Yeah.
So before, the problem with Killer Tune was you wanted to make the Synchro 4, but you can't do that unless you start with Q, because the others can't search a way to make a level 4. So you had to do something really awkward like Synchro with a 3 with Effect Failure, or do a level 2 with Gamma or something. Now that Reiko searches a 1, you can then make the 4 really easily, and Reiko also comes off Synchro Overtake. So you now have 12 super high quality 1-card starters instead of 6, not counting any 2-card combos where you get to the 4. Basically, it's just hyper consistent now. Second, because the level 1 is basically Marshmallow, you essentially turned both Stratos into tour guides, which means that you cannot nuke the first body anymore. It wasn't even that easy to do that before, because I have 2 normal summons, 3 dodges that are twice per turn, 3 fusion deployments, but it sometimes worked. Now, it's like they have 3 normal summons per turn, and 3 of them...
Was that 2 UR Overframes in 1 box? No, he's opened 3 boxes. 1 Wink Kuribo, 1 Cyber's Magician, and 1 Starlight Dark Magician Girl.
Play a second body, in addition to their 3 dodges and 3 synchro overtakes. You are not stopping them from making a synchro. They're a synchro deck that is not even weak to removal hand traps. Finally, this is the most OP part of the deck in my opinion, which is that they always play with perfect knowledge. The level 1 looks at your hand on synchro, and
yeah, they see your hand, they see your top deck, they see your extra deck.
And Q looks at and controls your top deck. If they know all of your cards, all 6 of your cards, they know exactly what they have to set up on their turn. It doesn't even feel like it's that oppressive to play against in terms of what they actually have, but if your opponent knows how to execute,
that's a cool Starlight,
then you literally cannot win going second. But that's all I have for tonight. I'll probably be a bit late responding to comments this time because I stayed up all night making this video, and I hope you have some advice for me because I'm having a really hard time with Yu-Gi-Oh right now.
All right, well, it sucks to hear that you're having a rough time, genuinely. I do think this feeling is reasonable. All things considered, I typically, the times that I struggle with Yu-Gi-Oh is when the dice roll is too important. That's, in my opinion, something that it really hurts my enjoyment in the game when like decks are too broken going first. So generally, even in games, like I feel like games where someone goes first and full combos and it's unbeatable, to me is a worse experience than, let's say, I get Charmied and then my opponent has a really good hand after the Charmy resolves and like maybe even punishes me for playing the game a little bit and then has like removal or like 5 mana. Like even, let's say against Draco Tail, when I go first, I get Charmied and then they have 5 mana after. That's like really hard to win, but it still feels like there's more Yu-Gi-Oh being played than when I get full comboed on when I go second. So I would take that problem that you're describing right now, I would take that problem over the alternative, but it still is a problem. You know, how about neither? Yes, ideally, in an ideal world, I'll tell you what happens, okay? In an ideal world, the power level of decks going first is toned down to the point where, or the decks going second are stronger in general to the point where you are not dependent on non-engine all the time when you're going second, right? Where boards become beatable with engine again. This is the ideal Yu-Gi-Oh! Is when engine plays versus engine, and it's actually playable for both players, right? When the player going first gets to play the game, because they don't get hand trapped to death, because they don't get drolled, because they don't get charmied, because they don't get shifted. They play the game, they make a board, the player going second plays into it, and it's actually playable. They don't have to auto-concede because they didn't hand trap and the opponent made an auto-win board, right? That's when the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Happens, is when you go engine versus engine, and it's winnable for both sides, okay? In this world, we don't need more Charmies. You can ban them. In this world, we don't even need to ban Ash Blossom, because who cares? If the Charmies are not necessary to beat combo decks, then I don't care about Ash Blossom, genuinely. Like, if the power the only reason why I've been advocating against Ash Blossom is because I think at the moment, decks are too strong going first. So if they Ash the Charmy, they auto-win the game, and I think that feels bad. In a world where decks are more reasonable when they go first, the Ash Blossom is completely fine. I don't care. There's a multitude of solutions to this. You can tone down the power level of the decks in general when they go first, you know, which is something that I feel like they've been trying to do. They've been trying to make the pure decks a little bit fairer recently. The problem is that apparently they missed the fact that every single deck is like splashable with 10 other decks. So instead of playing pure Yummy, people are playing Yummy Mitsu, and now they're playing Yummy, Radiant, Tri-Brigade, Fiendsmith, Dark Magician, whatever, all one deck, you know? And instead of making the pure board, they're making everything anyways that you can't beat, right? But, you know, they could tone down the power level of going first. The best one, in my opinion, is just increasing Engine's power level for going second. We need more cards like Paimena, Izuna, Ketu Draco Tail, Incredible Ecclesia, Typhon, Zeus. We need cards that give the player going second a bonus effect, a benefit. We need more engines that are strong at going second. We need less engines that just fold to a single removal card, like a Yummy normal summon or a Malice normal summon or whatever. Like, we need less decks that are weak to removal. We need more decks with powerful bonus effects when they're going second. And in that world where going first is not that OP, we don't need to play the hand trap mini game. We don't need to play the Molcharmies. The Molcharmies don't even need to exist. This entire problem is only here because decks are too powerful when they go first. That's all there is to it. Genuine. That is all there is to it.